Hello, I'm Dr. Dion Karbeem, and I'm delighted to present this module today about integrating technology into teaching and learning. It is predominantly a theoretical module, meaning that we'll discuss and review various theories regarding integrating technology. Now, I know some people think theories are boring and theories are not necessary. However, it is theories that give us that foundation in order for us to build and to effectively integrate that which we practice. So I hope you'll gain something from this module where we discuss a lot of theories. And when we go through this module, kind of think about if you're using it or how it relates to you, how you can use this as you integrate technology. So today, in this module, we'll start by looking at the Assure model for technology integration and planning. And within that scope, we'll look at tools to select technology tools, as well as considerations for using a technology tool. Then we'll look at a chart that will compare and contrast using technology to integrating technology. Finally, we'll look at two theoretical models, the SAMSTER model and the TPACK model. But let's start with the Assure model for technology integration planning. One thing is important to recognize is that in order for technology to be effective for the long term within your learning environment, you need to plan for it. And sometimes we don't like to plan. Let's be realistic. We just like to find it and do it. But as the old adage says, that proper preparation prevents poor performance. And also that plan gives us a blueprint to know exactly what we should be doing, what we hope to do, what we hope to gain. And as you can see from the Assure model, there are 6 attributes for effective technology planning to integrate it into your learning environment. The first one is to analyze the learners. That's whomever will be in your learning environment. They may be your students. If it's a professional development, they may be your staff members, whatever. But you want to analyze them to get to know them so you can effectively know what they need. And in your analysis, you want to think about the technology resources they have and the technology resources they have access to. Now, looking at that, we want to think about also not just the standard computers and if they have internet connection, how fast or how slow, but also if they're using a regular computer device or a mobile device. We're moving fastly into a mobile generation, so they may access something from a mobile device. So also consider that as well. Their skill level. If they are very, very advanced, then you want to make sure that you provide a technology that's applicable to that. Otherwise, they may find it boring. Or if they're just starting or if they're just getting into technology, you may want to take it easy. Nothing too advanced for them. It's important that we think about the demographics. Research has shown us a lot about people's attitudes and usage to technology based upon their age, their gender, their ethnicity, and so forth. And we want to recognize and pay attention to those things to see how that plays a part in how we use technology. Now, let me just say this. We don't want to negate somebody because we feel or perceive that people of the baby boomer generation may not use technology or they may not want to do things with technology, but we have to find a better way to lead them to the technology. One thing that the Pew Research study has taught us is that people who are minorities, people of color specifically, are more likely to access the internet using a smartphone, a mobile phone, as opposed to using a computer. So understanding that the technology that is selected should be comparable to those who are most likely going to use it via a mobile device and not just only on computers. Because there are some tools that will work great in a regular web browser on a computer, but will not work at all on the phone. Now, psychographics actually deals with the elements regarding people's attitudes and aspirations. Do they like it? Do they don't? Are they interested in certain things? Because that can help you bring them to the water and helping them to drink it, if you will. The academic abilities, because depending upon the technology you select, regarding the academic abilities, it can help curate it or it can even help impede it. So you want to think about that as well. And of course, their learning styles. Are they more auditory learners? Are they more kinesthetic? What is their preference? And wrapping all of those analyses into one. You can analyze your learners by surveying them, talking to them, surveying those that have understood the learners, maybe their advisor, maybe a counselor, maybe people that have taught them previously, and maybe a relevant data set. For an example, I mentioned the Pew Research study that gives us about technology usage regarding minorities. There's also things about millennials, about digital immigrants, and there's a lot of research and previous data information that can give you that information to help you analyze your learners so you can effectively integrate the technology. The next step is stating your objectives. We want to look at it from a couple different angles. We want to look at the objectives of what will the learners be able to do as a result of the technology integration? Basically, those are the desired learning outcomes. But also, what are the outcomes for using your technology? Do you want it to be faster? Do you want it to be quicker? Do you want to have more motivation, to be more engaging? What are the outcomes for that? Did you want to spend only 30 minutes on it? To think about all those things. And also, how will you assess the objectives? Will you ask the students? Will there be a survey? Will there be a grade tied to it? What will be your assessment metric to be able to determine when you get to stage 6 if you've met these goals and objectives? And sometimes we know the goals and objectives, but we don't actually think about what will be the metric to assess them. And that's equally as important. Now, the next step is to select the method or the media. Object review instrument. And as we can see, there are 9 different elements that you can look at when selecting your technology tool. The content quality, the learning goal alignment, feedback and adaptation, the motivation, the ability to motivate and stimulate the learners into using technology, the presentation design. Sometimes if it's ugly, if it's not attractive, students and the learners will shy away from it. So you want something that has a nice presentation to it. The usability, meaning the ease of navigation, the interface, being able to have that intuitive navigation, if you will. The accessibility, that is very, very key. We can look at the accessibility from the standpoint of the Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA, making sure it's accessible for everyone, but also accessibility by devices. Can it be accessible by mobile devices? Can it be accessible from computers? Making sure that accessibility is there. Reusability. It's kind of sad if you can get something one time and only use it that one time. You want something hopefully you can use over and over again, because that saves a lot of time. And then standard compliance, if there are any standards that are available that they actually meet that. Now we're going to move over to the Web 2.02 selection criteria. And you're going to see a lot of things that tend to overlap. Now here there are 7 criteria. Access, usability, safety, workload, time management, the fun factor, appropriateness, and the content. First of all, looking at the access. Once again, we see some of the same things we saw in the Lori. Looking at, does it work well with dial-up? Is it accessible by Windows and Mac users? Is it free or is there a cost? If there's a cost, how will it be accessed? And will it be around for a while? I find that very, very interesting because sometimes there are millions, probably literally millions of tools, particularly the Web 2.0 tools. And many of them that I even used last month. I go to the website. I went to one the other day, OpenSea. I loved OpenSea. And I went to the website, to the OpenSea website, and it was gone. So it was something that I planned to use for a while, but it didn't last a while. And oftentimes, a lot of these tools are developed by people that may not have the financial backing. And whether we recognize it or not, we love the term of free and openness, but on the back engine behind this, it takes money to maintain these things. And if someone is designing something in his or her basement and they don't have the funding to maintain it and to continue it, and even to make sure that they're able to live, to eat, to pay their rent, then most likely some of these tools will not last for a while. So it's always interesting to look at the tool's roadmap, where they're going, but also to look at their history, how long they've been around, if they have any financial backers, who else is using them, how many people are using them, because it makes a difference. You don't want to start something and in the middle it actually just goes away, and sometimes no rhyme or reason. The usability. Do you have to create an account? Is it easy to use? Is there anything that has to be installed? When we get to the point of installing things, that hampers the experience of it, especially if you have to install it over and over again. So how easy it is to use, how friendly is it to use this particular tool? We really have to think about the safety, the security, the privacy, and even the intellectual property. Now, typically when we sign up for these sites, there's that long paragraph that we never read. Well, excuse me, I can't talk about everybody. That I typically never read, and I just click I agree or I accept. That's the EULA, the End User License Agreement, EULA. And inside that agreement, it's going to tell you some things that, hey, this may be used for marketing. If you do it on our site, we own this intellectual property piece. You want to know about those things. They're able to use it for marketing purposes, to share with others. It can't be private, whatever. You want to know about those things. And also you want to know, what are their safety measures? Do they back up the data nightly? Is it in a secured environment? Have they ever been hacked before? Particularly if you're giving out your email addresses and any personal information that may be identifiable. Looking at the copyright status, does it allow you to create your own copyright? Maybe something similar to Creative Commons. If the company should go kaput, can you save it yourself? Can you have an archival piece of it? Because it's terrible to have created, let's say, a video on a website and then the company is ending and there's no way you can retrieve that. So all of that is important to know and to understand. And that goes along with the criteria number 3. Workload and time management is criteria number 4. Now let's be honest, we want something that's going to make our lives a little bit easier and not necessarily much more difficult. And we want something that can help us to work smarter and not harder. So when we think about this, is this a tool that's going to really help us to work smarter and not harder? Something that can integrate into the LMS such as Blackboard, something that allows me to streamline grading, or something that, is it clunky? Do I have to go through multiple steps? Does it make my workload management more difficult? If I have 30 students and I have to go to 30 different websites to grade something, that's difficult. Or does it streamline? I can have all 30 students listed on one screen and then I can go through and link from there. It really makes a difference in terms of that. So consider the workload and time management aspect of it. But hey, let's be honest. We need to have a bit of fun, the fun factor of it all. And let's be honest once again, if it's something that's not engaging, if it's something that's not interesting, then your learners are most likely going to shy away from it. Or it's just going to be a pretty painful process. So consider the fun factor. Can you be creative with the learning process? Does it allow your students, your learners, to feel connected with what they do? Can they share it with people? Maybe their other classmates, maybe their friends, their family members, their co-workers. Is it attractive that it will encourage us to use it? Is it visually stimulating? All of those kind of good things. What's the fun factor of it all? The appropriateness. We can look at appropriateness from different levels. Is the content appropriate for the audience? What about the vocabulary? Now, we wouldn't want to give a Barney activity to a college student. I would hope not. That's, even though the content may be good and may be structured, it may not be appropriate for that age group because it's a bit juvenile. You want something that's more sophisticated for that age group, and vice versa. You wouldn't want anything that's very sophisticated and heavy and you give it to someone in pre-K or the first grade. And we also want to look at the perspective of insensitive language and insensitive content, images. Are the images appropriate? Is the language appropriate? If there are things that they're cuss words, profanity, you may want to shy away from those things. And we can even take this to the next level of it being culturally appropriate, to making sure that it's appropriate for the different cultures. We can even look at it from gender choice, from lifestyle choice, from religious choice, to make sure that it's appropriate for all the various demographics. Lastly, we're looking at content. Is the content error-free? What about grammatical errors, spelling errors? Is it valuable? And also, is the content too excessive? Sometimes you just give people so much and it just becomes so heavy, and after a while they're like, oh my God, I just can't deal with this anymore. So you don't want it to be too much. You want the right balance in it. And also, one thing that I'm actually going to put under content is, does it work the way you want it to work? Is it free from any errors in terms of what it's supposed to do? There was a tool at one point called GrammarBase. And GrammarBase was basically a tool that allowed you to check your work, your written work, papers, emails, whatever, for grammatical errors. So just testing the tool, we put in, we is walking to the store. Let me repeat that. We is walking to the store. And GrammarBase said that was correct. So imagine if there were a student, a learner, that didn't know any better. They may walk around saying, hey, we is walking to the store. So as the instructor, we want to make sure that we test these to make sure that it is as error-free as possible. And also, one thing we want to give a caveat to the students, that if there's something wrong or if they detect something, to let you as the instructor, the faculty member, know, so that way they can make any modifications and even let the company know. To take this a little bit deeper, look at your goal. What is your desired outcome? What's the problem? Look at yourself personally. Do that personal reflection. Are you comfortable with doing something like this? And do you have the time to do it? There are certain technologies or certain things that may require a lot more time. For an example, if you're doing a digital storytelling project, that will take a lot more time compared to doing something on the discussion board. And you want to make sure that if you're going to do that digital storytelling project, that you properly manage your time to make sure that you can balance the grading, working with students, and all of that kind of stuff. Your own technical skills and abilities. If you're not comfortable doing certain things, you may want to wait until you become more comfortable. That doesn't mean to delay it indefinitely or to totally shy away from it, but you want to become comfortable. You want to feel that you're able to do this. If you're just starting to learn how to turn on the computer, It may not be the time for you to do a digital storytelling project. You want to grow into that, and in fact, that should be a goal, to grow into that. And then you want to think about the institution. What concerns exist? What are there some limitations, if any? There may be some policies where your institution doesn't allow you to use certain things. You may want to consider if you have iPads or iPods or something where your students need to connect to the wireless and the wireless does not exist, then that may be a problem. So you want to think about all those things when you are selecting your tool. So just as a recap, we just looked at the Lori instrument, the Web 2.0 selection list, and also just some general considerations when selecting your tools. And hopefully you did see some overlap over those. I know that I did with some of the language, and you'll get the general picture of this information. Moving on to number 4, this is showtime. Lights, camera, action. This is when you put the plan into action. Now, what's the best way to put the plan into action? The first thing is to preview the tool. This is your chance to play with it, to test it, to try it. Definitely before you give it to your students. Maybe read about what others have done with it. Maybe do something on your own with it, but you preview the tool. Then you'll need to prepare the tool. What this means is that there's sometimes with certain tools, you may need to do some things in advance in order for students to use it. For an example, Animoto gives teachers free accounts. You have to use your educator email address, but also they allow you to create a class of 15 students. That 15 students can use the tool. But in order to do that, you have to upload their email addresses. That would be an example of preparing the tool. Let's say, for an example, if you're doing something as simple, as a Prezi presentation, preparing it may mean adding the different graphics, adding the different images, your content, and all of that stuff, and preparing the tool. Depending upon the environment, you may need to prepare the environment. Let's go back to the Prezi. If you're going to present that to a classroom, you need to turn on the computer. You need to open up your web browser if you're using the online version of Prezi. You need to open it up. That's preparing the environment. If you're doing online testing, you need to find the location where there's enough computers. You may need to turn on the computers, make sure the internet is there, and all that stuff. Now, many of these things we take for granted because IT will make sure computers are in the room. They'll make sure that the internet is working and the wireless is on, this, that, and the third. But you want to make sure that the environment is ready to use the tool that you need to use. And it's also important to prepare the learners. Let your learners, your students know in advance, hey, we're going to be doing online testing. We're going to do a digital story using Animoto. Whatever it is, prepare them. Talk about it. Give them an example. Don't spring it on them the day of because it may be a little overwhelming, but you want to get them mentally ready for it. Preparing the learners also means if it's something they're doing outside of the classroom, what happens if there's a technology glitch? Who should they report it to? What should be the steps of action if something goes wrong? All that comes as preparing the learners. And then the magic happens. You just go out and do it. You provide the experience. You make the magic happen. The next step is requiring the learner's participation. Now, this is where we actually engage the students in the tool. Now, require and mandate, they sound like strong words, but in order for the integration to be effective, you really need as much as you can to require the learner's participation, to get them involved in it. Now, let's say, for an example, you turn it in. Sometimes some students don't want to upload stuff to turn it in for the plagiarism detection tool. I don't know why. I'm not going to speculate. But let's say they don't want to do it. They want to print it out and hand it to you, or they may want to upload it to a discussion board, or they may want to email it. It's important that as the instructor or the faculty member that you don't make it optional. You say, hey, you know you've had enough time to know about this. Here's the tool. If it doesn't work, here's the resources for you, and upload it in the appropriate way. Because you want to keep them engaged in the process, and you want that integration to be successful. Sometimes you may have to do a little smoozing with some of the students more than others. You may have to do a little bit more support. You may have to give a different level of intervention. But if you go in and start saying, oh, if you don't want to do it, you don't have to, then it's not really going to work. Now, it's one thing if you're giving them options to accommodate their learning styles. Maybe they can record a video, or maybe they can create a video. Maybe they can write something with voice. You know, that's a difference. But for a student to say, I just don't want to do it because I don't want to, or for the instructor to go in and say, oh, well, you know, I know you may not know how to do it, or you may not want to do it. So if you don't want to do it, you don't have to. You can go back to the old form. Don't start that. Let it be required. Let it be required. And one of the most important pieces is the evaluation. Remember I told you back in step 2 about stating the objectives and how are you going to measure if you met those objectives? This is the time that you do that. When you measure the impact of the tool of the desired learning outcomes and just the tool itself. Some questions you may want to ask. Were the desired learning outcomes met? Were the technology goals met? How did the learners feel about it? Did they enjoy it? Was it a painful process? Was it something they wanted to do again? Is it something that it was a little rough start, but once they got into it, they got the hang of it, and it was a great experience? But how did they feel about it? Did you select a good technology tool? Maybe you selected Prezi. And after using Prezi, it's like, okay, it didn't work the way I wanted to work. Maybe I should have used something else. And sometimes that's just the case. We have to continue to try, but think about, was it a good tool? And was there anything else that could have been used? What can be improved? Even if something is grade A, there's always something that can be improved, maybe even the little things. And as I already mentioned, are there any similar tools that could have done the job just as well? Now, one thing that I discourage people from doing, and they do it, it doesn't matter, but from changing a tool every day or every semester or every week, I think it's really important to kind of stick with a tool just for a little bit so you can get to learn it. You can understand the nuances of it, and most likely it will help you to have success in the long term, even if it doesn't work the way that you want the first time, to try it again before you switch to something. So that's just a debate. Some people feel that every semester you should try something different. Every month you should try something different. I'm kind of under the belief that try something, stick with it for a while, and then after a while maybe change up and modify. But not too quickly, not too fast, because you want to get the run of the technology to understand so get the greatest impact. So now that we've made this plan, we know we need to analyze, have our objectives, select the tools, utilize them, make the learners participate and evaluate. What does it mean to integrate? What does it look like? Well, here's a little chart that compares and contrasts using technology with integrating technology. Now, just technology usage is just throwing it together, the random use of it, and just the afterthought. But the integration is purposeful and planned. Just using technology, use it here or there, is very rare. But the integration, it becomes a regular part of your routine. Whether it's online, whether it's face-to-face, it's just second nature just to use the technology. The usage of technology, oh, I'm just using it just to say that I used it, just to say that I've done it. But the actual integration, that's when you have your goals and objectives of how you plan to use it. When using it, you're using it just to instruct students. You know, you're kind of that sage on the stage and you're just kind of being more passive. But when you're using it to engage them with the content, you have moved from the usage to the integration. It's mainly used by the instructor for usage, but when you get the students involved, you've moved to a level of integration. When you focus simply on the technologies, you're under the usage category. But when you move to the level that you're focusing on using technologies to create and to develop new thinking processes, you're integrating. The instructional time is spent learning how to use it. This is how you set your margins. This is how you do this. But the instructional time is used to learn, or rather using the technology to learn, to be creative, to have those higher order level thinking skills. And I just kind of jumped ahead of myself because that was kind of relevant. But when you're using when you're encouraging rather the lower order thinking skills and tasks, that's a technology usage. But to get to the integration, you are encouraging the higher order thinking skills. For usage, the technology is solely used by individuals working alone. But when you're integrated, you're getting to that point of collaboration. And not just inside the classroom or during regular class time, but even outside the classroom. Maybe they go to a collaboration area and they work together. Or they find a way to use technology to come together outside of class time, maybe using Skype or something of that nature. Technology used to facilitate activities that are easier without technology is just the usage. But to integrate, you're using technology to facilitate activities that otherwise would be very difficult or impossible. So look at it as technology is that bridge or that gateway to making things, that learning outcome, a bit more possible and available to students. Technology is just used to deliver the information. Once again, the sage on the stage. But when we get to the point that students are constructing and building knowledge, that's integration. And the technology is just on the outside. It's peripheral to learning. It's the ad hoc. But it's essential to the learning activity when you're integrating. Now, sometimes all you need to do is use the technology, and that's fine. But when you're in the role of teaching, when you're in the role of being that instructional leader, being that faculty member, there are points that you want the technology to be integrated, to transform. How do we get to that point? One model is the SAMSEER model, S-A-M-R, SAMSEER model. We can see we start from the bottom, and the bottom two deal with just the enhancement. We're just trying to enhance the learning environment. We're just trying to enhance what we're doing. We're trying to enhance the online classroom. So we start out at the bottom with substitution. Basically, it acts as a substitute. Let's say, for an example, the document camera. Once upon a time, we had the overhead projector. Now we have the document camera. It's just a substitute for something that we had before. Augmentation. The tech tools are a direct substitute with a bit of functional improvement. Maybe now we have a document camera with the overlay that we can write on and that we can mirror it to a student's mobile device. That as you're writing on the document camera, that a student may have their tablet or their iPad or their cell phone, and they can watch what you're doing from there. We ultimately want to get to the point of transformation, and this requires some higher order thinking skills as well. Modification. This is when we're totally taking an original task and redefining it. The technology has told us, okay, let's throw away this overhead projector and writing on it, and let's find a brand new way of doing it. And eventually we want to get to the point of redefining it. We started from the bottom, now we're here. We're at the top. That it allows us for the creation of new ways and new things that once upon a time we didn't think we'd be able to do. Let me give you an example. We all have a paper-based quiz, right? Right. Now, to substitute it We may have a quiz and Microsoft Word or something and let the students fill in the answer. It's better. It's enhanced, but it's a substitution level. Now, if we take that and we put it inside of Blackboard, the learning management system, and we make it an online test, we have augmented that, and that is an enhancement. It does save us time. It does help us. But when we get to the modification level, this is when we start thinking of just throwing that whole thing away and finding a brand new way of doing it, a brand new way of trying it. Maybe students could write an essay and then capture it as a voice recording in addition to writing. Maybe use SoundCloud, and as you use SoundCloud, the video bubbles, the audio bubbles are at different areas. That's modification. Now we could totally redefine it. Take out the old and have a brand new one. Maybe students can create a documentary video about the essential concepts. So we originally had a paper-based quiz, and we totally redefined it by doing a documentary video. Now yours may not be that advanced, but we want to think about how we can redefine. And when we get to the point of redefining, we get to that transformation piece, then we can start seeing a bit more innovation with that. And this is where we want to get to. Now, once again, I reiterate, there's room for all of these. Sometimes we just need to substitute. Sometimes we just want to modify. But we also want to be able to move higher up into that threshold. As Kate Sharrock actually has on this model here, we can see how the Bloom's taxonomy, the higher we go to redefining something, we see that we're more creating, we're more evaluating. And the lower we are in this area with substitution, we're at the lower order. So we want to move higher just so we can encourage higher order thinking skills. And the higher order thinking skills, it will have a more significant impact on the learning outcomes. So this is the SAMSEER model: substitution, augmentation, modification, and redefining. Think about what you have in your courses or what you have working with learners and how you can use that to modify your assignments, to redefine your assignments, so on and so forth. The next one is the TPACK model. Now, ironically, it is TPACK as the acronym. Not sure where the A comes from, but hey, I'm not going to argue against the theorists doing that. The technological, pedagogical, content knowledge model. And as you can see here, it's a Venn diagram that we have one with technological knowledge, content knowledge, and pedagogical knowledge. And let me explain each of these before we go through them. The content knowledge, which is actually on this point, is the actual understanding of the subject matter, understanding the content. Once we get to the pedagogical knowledge, which is over here, this is basically understanding pedagogy, the process and the practices of teaching and learning. Then we get to that technological knowledge, if you will, understanding how technology works, understanding how the technology operates. And typically, these have operated independently. But in order for the integration to be effective, they need to operate interdependently. They need to work together. They need to work in concert with each other. Now you can see that there is an overlap here between the pedagogical content knowledge. That's this area right here. And this is the area where you understand the subject matter and how to effectively deliver it to meet the desired learning outcomes. You'll also see the technological content knowledge. That's this area right here, that little overlap, where you understand which technologies are available and which ones are best suited for the content area. Just because a technology is available doesn't mean it's most appropriately suited for the content area. Then we look at the third part, the technological pedagogical knowledge, understanding how to effectively integrate the technology to achieve desired learning outcomes. That's an instructional technologist. But at any rate, where we want to get into the heart and the soul of this. And this is my little heart. And that's the center where all three of these avenues come together. Where we understand how the pedagogy, the content, and the technology works together in content that they can be effectively integrated. You need to know how the technology works, how the content works, how the pedagogy works in order for it to be effective. Now, one thing about it, don't feel that you're in this alone. You may know the content, but may not quite understand the pedagogy. Well, you can get support for that. You may understand the content and the pedagogy, but may not understand the technological side of it. Well, that's where your support system comes in. You can get training. So don't feel that you have to reach this little heart of it all alone. You can get assistance. You can get professional development. You can get training to help understand each of these. And the heart of it is where we really want to get, because this is where the integration is effective. Because using technology without having some understanding of pedagogy is wasteful. To have your content knowledge but not know how or what technologies are available will not allow for good integration of technology. So we want to work to this centerpiece right here, and that's the TPACK model. Now, truthfully, everybody will not get there in one day, in 1 month, in 1 year. It's a process, and this chart here looks at the integration level for the actual teacher. There's always an entry point. You know, they have to start somewhere, and that's the beginning of it. Then they get to a point of adoption, where the teacher directs students in the conventional use of a software. Then the teacher becomes more comfortable with it in the adaptation phase. They encourage the students to adapt it in different ways. They adapt it in different ways. They find different ways of using it. Then we get to the infusion phase that the teacher constantly provides for the infusion of technology tools with understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating the learning task. It's like second nature to them. It's not something that you have to struggle to do. It's not something you have to pull teeth to do. It's like, okay, I'm going to teach math today. Okay, I'm going to use this app. I'm going to use this tool. I'm going to use a smart board. It's just second nature. And finally, the transformation. Going through this whole process, using technology, there's now a rich learning environment where there's a blending choice of technology tools, different ways to use the technology. We're doing things in a different way, things that we've never done before. We're trying new things. We've totally transformed the way how we were doing it. So we're no longer using the overhead projector. We're no longer doing paper and pencil testing. We're now creating videos. We are now doing digital storytelling. We are now using mobile apps. We're now creating mobile apps. We're now gamifying. We're now flipped the classroom. We are totally doing things in a totally different way thanks to technology. So, my question to you is, how can you properly integrate technology to transform your learning environment? I just want you to think about it. Think about the tools that you know how to use. Think about the tools that you want to use. But how can you properly use technology to transform your teaching and learning environment? So, this concludes the presentation today. We have discussed the Assure model for technology integration planning. We looked at a chart that compared and contrasted using technology versus integrating technology. We looked at the SAM-SEER and TPACK models for integrating and transforming the learning environment. And if you have any questions about any of this, please don't hesitate to let me know. I'll be happy to answer any questions or provide any additional discussion. You may have different ideas and different thoughts about how it works and be integrated, and I would love to hear that as well. But in the meantime, thank you for your time and attention. See you later, Gator.